things up. Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Very good. Looks like we've got a couple of guests here joining us. Miles Curtis is the Vice Chair of the HRC, the Heritage Resource Committee. Welcome as well. So I think everybody had before them the agenda for this evening for Wednesday, June 2nd. It's now 5 p.m. and I'll call the meeting to order. Everybody had an opportunity to look at the agenda. We have a motion, please. Member Gullickson.
Thank you, Chair Creasy. I'll move the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor? That was unanimous. Thank you. Want to do our minutes?
Yep.
I think for the time it'll take, maybe we'll go to our minutes from May 19th if we could. You've got an opportunity to review those. Is there any errors or omissions that need to be considered from that meeting? Anyone? Member Hibbs?
I'll move the minutes be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Last call. All those in favor? Adopted as presented. Thank you. Unanimous. And before us this evening, we have before the demolition of a commercial building on 4962 Highway 2A. Development Officer Capel, could you please work through that item for us, please?
Absolutely. Administration has received an application for the demolition of a commercial building located at 4962 Highway 2A, Zone C1, Central Commercial District, and part of the Old Town Main Street District Mixed Use Overlay. The building was built more than 50 years ago and is therefore deemed a historic building. The buildings are subject to Section 14 in the Historic District Area Overlay, which provides guidelines for demolitions. Neighboring property consultations were sent out to 11 property owners within 60 meters of the subject site. At the time of writing this report, no responses were received. The building, located along 49C Avenue and a Highway 2A service road, abuts two adjacent commercial buildings, 4960 Highway 2A and 4705 49C Avenue. With a 0 meter side yard setback for each structure, the demolition of the subject site will require utmost care and attention so as to not affect the structural integrity of the adjacent buildings. Staff did not receive any feedback from the immediate neighbors. In response to the mailed letters, opted to take the additional step to contact each over the telephone. Both neighbors were concerned about the disruption to their tenants, impacts on existing foundations, the appearance of the exposed surfaces of the remaining buildings, and a time frame for redevelopment. Staff recommend attaching conditions of approval to ensure clear lines of communication between the applicant, the adjacent landowners, the Heritage Resource Committee, and the Historical Society. Demolition of any principal building 50 years of age or older is subject to regulations set out in the Historic District Area Overlay. The purpose of this overlay is to promote conservation and retention of historical resources through the guidelines and demolition regulations. In analyzing demolition applications, administration reviews various historic characteristics, such as is the building over 50 years of age? Is it included on the heritage inventory or the places of interest list? And does it have a historical designation on title? This building was built in 1951 and it is on neither the heritage inventory or the places of interest list, nor does it have a historical designation on title. The application was referred to the Heritage Resource Committee to provide a recommendation and comment on the historical value of the building. They indicated no objections to the demolition of this property, but did, however, note that due to the condensed timeline and preparing a decision for the June 2nd, 2021 MPC meeting, a full background check of the building and its history has yet to take place. The following comments form part of the letter. The building in question was identified in the Town of Lacombe Municipal Heritage Survey 2010 as considered an updated site in Appendix A of the 2010 survey. This building, however, was not further considered for inclusion in places of interest list. items in the building may be suitable for salvage and may be discovered. If connections to significant events or residents of the home are discovered, an interpretive plaque may be fitting given the site's location in the Old Town Main Street district. Such a plaque would provide historical context and interest to downtown visitors, thus aligning to goals advocated by the Downtown Area Redevelopment Plan Committee and others. As the property located at 4962 Highway 2A has not been designated as a historic resource, and the Heritage Resource Committee did not object to the proposed demolition, Planning and Development Services recommend approval of the demolition subject to conditions.
And I understand that we have a representative here on behalf of the proponent as well.
The property owner. Yep.
The owner himself.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Who has any questions or concerns with this permit?
I don't actually have a question. I think it's pretty straightforward. I do, however, like how it's presented. The conditions are sort of separated out into the different sections. That's a new thing. And I rather like that. So I just wanted to comment on that.
I think that was done specifically because recognizing this is a
little bit more
sensitive
complicated.
site.
I just for clarity, I think it just helps. I like it. I'm happy with that feedback.
Very good. Ms. Wall, can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's a bit echoey, so but I think I'm getting what you're saying. You're saying, hello, can I hear you?
That is true. Sorry for the echo hearing. That's unfortunate. However, we can hear you perfectly fine. I just wanted to hear from you and make sure that you were aware of the 17 conditions that were attached to this permit. I'm sorry, 20 that were attached to this permit.
Yes, I received the list yesterday.
And is there any specific items of concern to you or that you require further information about?
I don't believe so. I haven't had a chance to talk to the contractor yet because of the lateness in getting that yesterday, but I don't believe there'll be any issues with those that are outlined.
Very good. I was also led to believe that earlier today that we had an adjacent landowner that may have had some pertinent information or perhaps some questions posed for us. Did those materialize or not come about?
He was going to possibly attend the meeting. What is he? He was going to possibly attend the meeting, but I see that he's not here.
Okay.
His concerns were about how soon after the demolition is construction going to happen, hoping that maybe a new foundation would be put in sooner than later to help protect the structural integrity of his building. He was concerned about the foundation and maybe damages happening to his property, but of course your contractor will have insurance, so that will look after any accidentals.
And while I can appreciate that he would have some concerns, I think it's reasonable to expect that this property owner will leave the site in a state that will not impact a neighboring landowner that's kind of goes with any building and or demolition as well.
Yeah, and we did have contact with the contractor who had addressed most of the concerns pointed out by the neighbor, and they are committed to maintaining communication with the tenants so that everyone's understanding the timelines and the scheduled date of demolition so that all of the tenants are aware and can be safe during the demolition process.
Very good. Does anyone have any additional questions or concerns? Member Hibbs?
Thank you, Chair Creasy. Just because, and also because I see we have a representative from the committee anyways, the interpretive plaque that's mentioned towards the end, could you perhaps elaborate on what that would involve? Because I think that's a little unusual, probably because we are talking about like this district and we don't get these types of things before us very often. So maybe here's an opportunity to sort of explain what that would involve.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Councillor. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Yeah, so this is just a part we've noticed that is in bylaw 400 in terms of historical buildings. And right now, and certainly in the last 2 minutes, I'm really happy to be here just to have a representative here from the HRC so I can answer these questions directly. We don't want to ever tie up development, particularly with buildings like this that aren't on the POIL list. They are 50 years old, but there might be something interesting here, right? For instance, one of these buildings, who knows, it might have been owned by Michener for 5 or 10 years, right? And in terms of what we're seeing going on with the Downtown Area Redevelopment Plan Committee, et cetera, if we were to discover some kind of interesting thing, sticking a plaque up on the building might give some interesting thing. Now, what that would involve, a relatively small cost. I'm sorry, I don't have an initial, I would say maybe $1,000 max, because the plaques we do put up on these buildings are bronze and are designed and engraved, so there's something that lasts and just would be reflective of any kind of significant information about that property or ownership. And our thinking there would be, because clearly the building right now, we don't have any significant information on. So I think we're safe there, but maybe there's some really interesting history to be discovered. And that could be something that could be shared with the community. As you're wandering around downtown, you see a plaque and see it. And that process would basically be going through the Lacomin Historical District Society, doing that research. And then we would work with the building owners to create that text to go on the building, and we would go from there. I hope that answers that question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for that information, Miles. So that it's basically just a housekeeping issue, just a catch-all. If in fact something is discovered, that would be a nice way to preserve that point of interest for legacy purposes.
Absolutely. And usually, and this is something Nancy and everyone at Planning and Development and the HRC has been talking about in terms of the processes that are outlined right now in bylaw 400 that maybe aren't the best. We're totally committed to making sure those processes are as smooth as possible. And like I said, the HRC does not want to hold up these processes. We have no interest in, bogging the MPC down and stuff. So we just wanted to say this, in this case, we wanted to get our initial decision to you as quickly as possible with that caveat. We haven't done the full background research yet.
That's fair enough. We appreciate you bringing that to our attention. Seems very reasonable and straightforward. Thank you for that. Does anybody have a motion for our consideration? Looks like we've got a hand up there. Member Nauchin, go ahead.
Yeah, I had one concern about the interim phase between demolition and new construction and what that property is going to look like, whether it's going to negatively impact our downtown core just visually, because that's going to leave open sides of buildings that have been, mortar dripping down the sides from the construction, how they intend to maintain that land in between, because it's going to be a very awkward spot there.
I think that is a very distinct possibility. However, the appearance of the neighboring properties is a rather difficult thing to tie to demolition. I don't know that. I think it's safe to say that those buildings were not erected back in the 50s to anticipate the removal of any one of them and still have to look pleasing to the eye. So I think that's a real possibility. However, I'm just not totally sold it's within our authority to suggest that neither this owner nor neighboring owners should be held accountable for something that is not really within their control at this point in time. I mean, no one really knows what it's going to look like. I think that's a very valid point, though. What's everybody else think? Member Gullickson?
Thank you, Chair Creasy. I have similar concerns, and I'm just wondering about, I know we can't dictate this, but what is the timeline for construction?
We don't know. But we do have a condition where we will collect a $1,000 security to ensure that the site remains neat, tidy, free of weeds, and sodded or grass within a year of the demolition of the development as it commenced.
I think it's important to note that demolition permit and what we would expect in the whole construction permit down the road really have very little.
That's zero.
I saw a hand up elsewhere. Member Hibbs?
Just because you asked, I would say that I would just be more concerned about the property that's being demolished being kept up, because we know that in that area, weeds and whatnot have been an issue in the past, and I hate for that now to become particularly unsightly. So that would be my only concern. This is also perhaps an opportunity for those neighboring businesses to have access to maybe a wall that they haven't had before, so they could perhaps speak with the property owner that would now be vacant and maybe make use of that. But yeah, as long as the property itself is maintained until such time that construction begins, that is really my only concern here. Fair enough though, because I mean, it is a historic downtown and we do worry about what, our buildings look like. But I mean, this is just part of a regeneration of our downtown as well. So that would be my 2 cents.
So we've had a couple of members bring that up. Is this something that we feel warrants additional condition? Or do we want to hear from the property owner to see? Was it already outlined clearly enough?
Yeah.
Within the given condition to do the purpose?
14. Yeah. It usually is, but it's worth highlighting.
But I will draw everybody's attention to condition number 14. And let's just take a moment and verify the wording of it.
And 50 for that matter, I guess.
Item 14, the applicant is to ensure the site remains neat, tidy, and free of weeds.
And 50.
Pretty self-explanatory, I would suggest. And item number 15, applicant is required to sod or seed the lot with grass within 1 year of demolition if future development has not commenced. So some latitude there, but in the meantime, I would suggest that number 14 is perhaps even more important, certainly in the short term for sure. So are those items addressed to your satisfaction, Member Nowichin?
Yeah, they do.
Thank you. And Member Hibbs?
Yes.
Very good. We have a motion or no?
I'll make the motion.
Go ahead, Member Hibbs, go ahead.
Sure. Be it resolved that the Municipal Planning Commission approve the demolition of a commercial building located at 4962 Highway 2A, Lot C, Block 6, Plan 3675, HW Zone C1, Central Commercial District, and part of the Old Town Main Street District, mixed use overlay, subject to the following 20 conditions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional input at this time before we vote? Seeing or hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? And I am sorry, but I missed one vote on screen. Member, glad I did not see.
I didn't see it.
So just for verification of the record, Member Glenn, I did not see your indication of your vote on that motion.
Oh, yes, I'm in agreement. Sorry.
Not a problem. I think there may be some video feed issues there. It was a little spotty, so verbally then, for the record, you were in favor of the motion.
Yes.
You're good, so that was unanimous then. And there were a couple of items that the Development Authority chose to issue. Development Officer Kirby, go for it.
All right, so just one so far, it's for a business directory sign with a waiver to the required directory map and an 8.6%, 1.29 meters square variance to the maximum allowable area for a business directory sign. That's for 4457 Highway 2A. 6 property owners were notified, no opposition was received. It was conditionally approved on May 25th, and the appeal period ends on June 15th.
Thank you very much. And as everyone can see, the next MPC meeting has been scheduled for June 16th. And can I assume that we do have applications at this time?
We do.
Very good. So I'll have you update your calendars accordingly. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. For the commission members, I think that now that we've had the first run here in person, I would suggest that you, if you feel so inclined, you are certainly welcome to join us at the LMC in the Kinsman Room, so I don't get it incorrect, which is on the southwest corner of the upper floor. We were a little uncomfortable having everyone here this evening until we got things ran through once, but now that we know that everything works, we will make provisions to accommodate the complete commission. So that is for June 16th is the next meeting. And a motion for adjournment, unless someone has something else. Member Goldson?
That we adjourn.
Very good. All those in favor? Enjoy some sunshine, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.